Hello everybody, welcome, Macro Talk 2. It is Thursday, 2 o'clock in the afternoon, and I think I have most of my computer problems sorted out. We'll see though. Tuesday was a bit stressful for me, but yeah, there you go. Today we're talking about resolution, and if you have a pair of spectacles, magic spectacles, go get them while I'm yattering about the weekend, because you're going to need them. And otherwise, just be prepared to cross your eyes. Congratulations to Patrick Stale, who won the competition in January with a remarkable picture that I was actually supposed to find and put up. I can't find it, but I've got it somewhere. Go look at the competition entries and you'll see his. It's about the fourth or fifth entry. Absolutely stupendous photograph. Perfect for the competition. Well done, Patrick. All right. Congratulations to everybody else who entered. I do appreciate it. This month, the theme is macro symmetry. Make of that what you will. Be as creative as you want, but it's symmetry that I'll be looking for. This Saturday at 10 a.m. is After Stack with Bud Perrett and myself, which reminds me to say hi and thank you to Alistair and Bud and Amy, who may or may not be here at this point, but thank you all three of you. And yeah, that's it for the announcements. I do want to say one thing about the AK diffuser video. Two things actually. If you saw it right when it came out this week, you saw a disastrous mistake in progress. What I did was I uploaded some raw footage that hadn't been edited. It was in a file, and somehow I grabbed it by mistake, probably the late hour or the I for whatever reason, and I uploaded not the video, just some raw footage, and it was absolutely shocking. I couldn't believe I did it. Thank you to Graham and everybody else who tipped me off that I'd done that. If you go over there, I've removed that video forever and replaced it with the real video, and it's up there now. So please go give it a watch if you can. And like I say at the end of the video, I feel like this guy, Mr. Pena, is somebody that we should encourage and give a pat on the back for the good work that he's doing, because he's such a nice guy. So please do that if you can. Leave him a nice message in the comments and I'll make sure he gets them. Okay, so with no further, well, no, there is a bit more further ado. I said to somebody, in fact to several people who do crystal photography, I said, if you can get 2x3 slides, glass slides, get them, because they're much easier to use for photographing crystals. And I've even, my polarizing viewer is made to use these bigger slides. And I said to somebody just the other day, you can't get them. They are unavailable anymore. And I can't find them on eBay. I can't find them on any of these lab companies. I just can't find them anywhere. And then this morning I received, you can't see that, can you? Because it's glass. I received a box, a big old box of these 2x3 slides, and I had no idea who had sent them. So I did some research and discovered I'd ordered them a year ago from China, and they arrived today. So there apparently were still some a year ago. I don't know if there are any more. But yeah, if anybody's desperately in need of 2x3 slides, I'll let you have a couple. They go a long way, and they're hard to find. Okay, so what we're talking about today is resolution, but not in the generic sense of resolution. We are concerned about resolution in photography, in macro photography, in a couple of different ways. We're concerned about resolution that can be determined by our sensor, and we're not going to talk much about that. That is where we look at the architecture of our sensor and the number of megapixels and the size of the photo sites, and determine how close together something has to be, how 2 points have to be before we can no longer discern them on the sensor as two different points. They merge into 1 point. And different sensors, different cameras have different resolutions. And with camera lenses, that's important because a lot of good camera lenses will outperform the sensor on your camera. That is not the case with microscope objectives, and because we're macro photographers, that's what I want to talk about today, because there's a lot of confusion, misunderstandings about resolution and lenses, and in particular microscope objectives. So that's what I want to talk about. How do we determine the resolution of a microscope objective, and how does it compare to our ability to record it on our sensor? Because that's, after all, what this is all about. We're taking pictures with these things, and if we are using a microscope objective that has poor resolution, then it doesn't really matter what's going on in our camera. This will be the limiting step in the process. So I'm going to talk a little bit about microscope objectives and what that means, and how we would look at them and buy them for different reasons, different purposes. Okay, so what do we mean by resolution when we're talking about lenses? It's similar to what we're talking about on the camera sensor, but a little different. It's the ability to distinguish two separate points in the subject as independent, separate objects. Eventually, they will merge together. Now, there are different ways that companies will report resolution, but usually it's with a number, and that number is the number of microns of distance that have to be present between the 2 points before that objective will no longer be able to resolve them as 2 separate points. For example, the resolution on a Mitutoyo 10x objective is 1 micron. That means if 2 points are closer together than 1 micron, and you're looking at them with that objective, they will appear to be one object. Obviously then, the smaller the number, the resolution number, the power of the objective, the more finely it can resolve detail. And that, at the end of the day, is exactly what we're concerned about, the ability to resolve detail. That is where sharpness and contrast come from. Now, there are a lot of details in there that are important, and we're going to talk about several of them. But the first thing I want to do is completely remove from your head the correlation between magnification and resolution, because they are not the same. They don't mean the same. There is no relationship between magnification and resolution. You can have a very high resolution microscope objective with a very low numeric aperture, and that is what matters, and I'll tell you why in a minute, and have terrible resolution. Or you can have a very low power, 4x, 10x, 5x magnification objective that has a very large numeric aperture, and you will get extremely good resolution. So the relationship is between numeric aperture and resolution. The higher the numeric aperture, the higher the resolution. Here's a classic lens that a lot of us use. I held it up to the microphone. The microphone, it didn't say anything, so we'll hold it up to the camera instead. This is the Nikon CFI plan achromatic 10x objective, which a lot of you have. It has a numeric aperture of 0.25. That is, in the grand scheme of things, a fairly low aperture, a fairly low NA. And I'm going to contrast that with this particular objective, which is a 20x plan apochromatic Nikon objective that has an NA of 0.75. This is a very, very high, not as high as they go, mind you, but it's a very high numeric aperture. The higher the numeric aperture, the greater the resolution. Indeed, with this particular lens, the resolution is much, much higher than with the 10x, even though it's only twice the magnification. So that's what I want you to know. I don't actually have any pictures to show you just yet, but I do have some that I'll be showing in a minute that will help underscore this idea. So why does this matter when we're taking pictures with microscope objectives? It matters because zooming in, increasing the magnification, does not increase the resolution. It just makes the picture bigger and just as blurry. So there's a couple of important formulas that we throw around when we're talking about microscope objectives, but probably one of the more important ones is the relationship between numeric aperture on the microscope objective and the effective aperture that we would talk about if it was a camera lens. And the relationship you'll see is just, it's on another page. Here it is. It's strictly related to the numeric aperture, but it's the effective f number of a particular objective is the magnification, the nominal magnification that you're using it at, divided by twice the numeric aperture. So for if you had two 10x objectives, one of them with a numeric aperture of 1 and one of them with a numeric aperture of 0.1, I'm sorry, and one with a numeric aperture of 0.5, then you would have the magnification would be 10 divided by either 2 or 10. And that would give you an effective f number of somewhere between 5 and 100. See what I'm saying? Let's just pick one. Let's take this one. What would be the effective... Again, the microphone is not recording the video very well today, so we'll switch. What is the effective f number of this lens at 10x with an NA of 0.25? That is 10 divided by 0.5. That is 20. And with a camera lens, we'd be thinking around 20 would be in the ballpark of where we'd start to see softening from diffraction. This is important because you'll find a lot of cheaper infinity corrected microscope objectives that are selling on the internet for $10 or $20 that are 10x but have an effective aperture, if they even put it on the barrel, of 0.1 or 0.15. And that's going to be 10 divided by 0.1 is 100. And an effective aperture of 100 is 5 times the diffraction limit. And that is going to just give horrible, horrible pictures. So why aren't we all using apochromatic high NA objectives? Well, there's a problem with the high numeric aperture, and that relates to the working distance. When you buy, for example, a long working distance objective like the Mitutoyo or like the Mitutoyo SLs, which are super long working distance, they have a 20 that is almost 30 millimeters of working distance, you are trading in resolution because you are getting a much smaller numeric aperture. The numeric aperture on that 20 Mitutoyo SL is only 0.28, which is the same as the resolution of their 10x objective. So you'll see right away that if the 10x objective is f18, then the 20x objective is up in the 30s. And that causes softening no matter what you do about it. So that's why it's important. That's why understanding these numbers is very important. So the real key to resolution is the numeric aperture. And the numeric aperture, I've said this before, defines the light gathering abilities of the objective. And the more light you can gather, the more resolution you're gonna get. Simple as that. There's another formula that I'm not going to worry about, and we're not going to get into talking too much about the way the light behaves when it goes through an objective. Just remember that if you get a high numeric aperture objective like this one, they're mostly very, very expensive, in the thousands of dollars, but not always, and I'll tell you why in just a second. But that is the trade-off, is that your working distance is going to get very, very small. The working distance on this 20 times objective, even though this is a spectacularly sharp lens with great resolution, it has a working distance of 0.5 millimeter. 0.5 millimeter is not a lot of space. There's another problem too. This lens, and many lenses, in fact, just about all lenses, all microscope objectives are made to view the subject through a cover slip. If you don't add the cover slip or have a cover slip between the end of your lens and your subject, then what happens is the aberrations, the spherical aberrations that are taking into account the cover slip return, because there's no glass. The light is not passing through that extra piece of glass that it was built to do. So for this particular objective, you have to put a piece of glass in front of it, and I'll explain that when I show you the rig we're going to be talking about today. The purpose of this is, at the end of this brief discussion of resolution, I'm going to show you a way to take the highest resolution pictures you've ever taken in your life using an objective like this and equipment that you've already got, plus one rather important addition. We'll get to that in just a second. So numeric aperture will come from, you'll see objectives with apertures of 0.1 all the way up to 1.4 or so. And they are extraordinarily sharp, but they, again, have no working distance. And the reason we don't use them is we're typically using oblique lighting, and if you don't have any room to get light onto your subject, you can't see the subject. And that's obviously in photography, that's a pretty significant drawback. Oil immersion takes this into account as well, and some higher magnification objectives use oil immersion. We're not going to talk about that today. We will talk about how do you maximize resolution in practical everyday use, because this is what really matters. Now, no matter what you do in terms of picking an objective, you have to light the subject well. If you don't light the subject well, for a lot of different reasons, you're not going to get a good photograph. It can be because you don't have enough light and you get noise into the image. That will ruin a high resolution image, as you would imagine. If the light's uneven, if there's a lot of if the light is coming in at too much of an angle, you get a loss of contrast, sometimes loss of detail, especially if you get any reflected off-axis light. If you have glare or reflections in the image, either from the cover slip or from just the way you're lighting it obliquely, that will hide detail too. If you don't nail the angle of the light, in other words, it doesn't matter how good your NA is, you're not going to end up with a sharp picture. LEDs that flicker, especially with a low duty cycle, they are not good for this, and they will also mess up your pictures. You want a steady, reliable light source. Color temperature and all kinds of other things that you would do wrong with light will also mess it up. So when you're using high resolution objectives like we're going to be talking about here, you really need to concentrate on using the best light source you can and delivering it in the best way possible. And that's what we're going to talk about in the last half of this. So proper illumination, and if you are using a microscope as opposed to the rigs that we're using, you really need to make sure that your condenser is set up properly and you have the diaphragm set to match the NA of the objective. If you don't do that, it will really destroy the image. So we're not talking about microscopes, though. We're talking about taking pictures on our camera rigs using this equipment. So it's a little bit different. We're also not talking about using oil or water immersion, even though those are incredibly valuable in increasing the resolution of the image by the way the medium bends light. But we are going to talk about, and I will demonstrate for you how we deal with the cover slip problem. Okay, so what then is the issue in using this lens, and how are we going to solve it? That's really the practical part of today's discussion. I bought this because there is a way that we can use it, and this is probably the best bargain in microscope objectives in the world right now. This is an apochromatic Nikon at 20 times magnification. It's actually a DIC lens, but that doesn't matter for this. And it has a numeric aperture of 0.75, so we can expect it to be incredibly powerful at resolving detail. The reason we don't buy them is the short working distance, 0.5 millimeter or so. So how are we going to get around this problem? Well, we're going to change the way we light the subject, and we're going to do it cheaply and effectively. What we're going to do is we're going to build an addition to our rig that is very inexpensive, very simple to put together, almost foolproof. I say that, but it's probably not. Possibly foolproof, that doesn't involve a whole lot of expenditure or time or setup, but that will provide axial light that travels down through the objective to light the subject, and then returns through the objective to your eyes or your camera. Okay, this is not something we do in macro photography. Why am I talking about this now? Well, it's really for one primary reason. Is my friend Rick Littlefield took some photographs a couple of weeks ago and showed them to me in our weekly get-together, and I was completely dumbstruck by the resolution of these images, because it's a subject I'm well familiar with and something that I photograph myself, but I've never ever seen quite like this. And I'm going to show those pictures to you because I think it will speak volumes about what I'm talking about here. He had photographed a computer chip. It was actually an RF, radio frequency ID chip, the kind of thing that is attached to a package for tracking. They're tiny, teeny tiny little slivers of silicone that have lots of fun detail on them if you can get them off the package, which is not that easy. So Rick had spent hours peeling and dissolving in acid and heating and stripping these things off of a box, and then looked at them under the microscope. And we looked at them together gosh, it feels like it was about a year ago. And I'm going to show you a couple of those pictures, and they are stereo. So get your glasses, and we'll begin with this image, which is, hang on a sec, let me blow it up and then I'll switch over the screens. This is for glasses, so this is not cross-eyed, and you'll need to be fairly far back from your screen. So this is the image. Let me check it's for glasses. It is. And I'm sure you'll agree that when you look at this, it's a very nice picture. You get a good sense of depth, and you can really appreciate with these little upright structures that they are significantly tall. And beyond that, there's a fair amount of detail preserved. Okay, I'm going to show you another one, which is of the same chip, just a little bit zoomed in. Oh, if you're better at cross-eyed, let me just quickly put up the cross-eyed version of that picture. So if you look at stereo pictures by crossing your eyes, there you go. That's the cross-eyed one. Well, it was, and then I lost it. Let me get it back. There it is. All right, so that's for you cross-eyed folks. Same picture. All right, there's another one I want to show you too. This one is, we'll do cross-eyed first on this one. So here's a slightly less zoomed in picture of the same chip. As soon as I can get it over there we go. So these were all shot, by the way, with a 20 times Mitutoyo long working distance objective. And that's for cross-eyed folks. And I'll put the same picture up for glass wearers. Alrighty, so this is for you folks with glasses. Same chip, just a little bit larger field. And again, you can appreciate, I think, the depth you're seeing right through the silicone as soon as you get this thing registering in your brain. You'll see the top part of the image up here is fairly deeply recessed. So with all that in mind, what Rick did was he took, instead of using the Mitutoyo 20x objective like he did here and lighting this from the side, he used the same objective I have here, the Nikon 20x apochromatic. I believe it's let me see what the rest of it is. Yeah, it's just a plan apochromatic lens. He took this and put it on his usual microscope rig with a beam splitter that would divert some light put in from the side vertically. And I'm going to show you his rig and mine in just a second. And I want you to see the pictures that he got using this high NA lens. We'll start with glasses this time. So this is the same exact chip and pretty much the same view as the first image we looked at. So if you've got glasses, I can't seem to get this thing to move. If you've got glasses, look at this image, and I'm going to. I think that is the glasses image. That is compared to the one we just looked at. Look especially down here at the bottom at these upright structures that I was talking about. Let me see if I can get this to come onto the screen a little better. It looks a little bit crowded. There we go. It's a little on the big side. Okay, so that's the glasses version. And when I saw this, I could not believe my eyes at how much sharper the resolution was. Let me give you the cross-eyed one in case that's your thing. Same picture, just reversed for those who use their eyes crossed. Look at the detail. None of this was visible on the shots we just looked at. No kidding, I was absolutely blown away by this. This is at slightly lower magnification, but slightly more impressive if you ask me. This was the first picture that Rick showed. So this is for glasses, I believe. Hang on. There we go. Absolutely stunning. That is actually for crossed eyes there. Wait till you see the glasses one. All right. Coming up, this is for glasses. So this was the thing that finally convinced me, was looking at this. This was what made me go out and buy that objective. There is one other I've got actually that I want you to see. This first one is glasses. This is the same chip, way zoomed out, like so. And I didn't have a similar photograph from the other objective, but it should give you a fairly good idea of what we're talking about in terms of resolution. And the last one is the cross-eyed version of that. There we go. And I'll put that up to size. So that's all the pictures. Let me show you briefly what the rig looks like. I'm taking these pictures actually directly from photomicrography.net with Rick's permission, but this is the epi lighting that he is using. This is the objective that I showed you. He has a piece of cover slip glued onto the end of the objective. This is an adapter, a couple of adapters right here to attach this thing, which I'm going to show you in just a second, the beam splitter. In fact, I think I can probably get it to fit on the screen here. If you're interested, that is it on AliExpress. I haven't been able to find it anywhere else. $25. And what that does, by the way, it has a mirror at a 45-degree angle in here that half reflects and half transmits the light. So light that's shone in this port or this diffused port will, half of it will be reflected down onto the subject, while but you can look through it from the top. See what I'm saying? Half the light goes through, half the light is reflected. And that means that your light is coming straight through the objective onto the subject and then being returned up through the mirror to the Raynox, which is the tube lens, and the bellows, which is giving the separation between the tube lens and the sensor. Just exactly as you would normally do with an infinity corrected microscope setup. I don't know what that is. There we go. The key here is, we talked years ago when we were talking about infinity space, the space between the relay lens and the objective, it can be variable. It can be whatever you need it to be. And one of the primary reasons I explained that you would want an infinity space, and the reason they invented these objectives in the first place to be infinity conjugate, is so that you can add things between the relay lens and the objective. And this is the classic thing that you would add. There are other things that you can add, like filters, and this is just the case here, that we can add this light through this filter panel. And let me see, there was one other picture I was going to show you. Yeah, I ordered, Rick, you can see Rick is using a work light, and he has a flash up here. So he's actually firing flash through here. I probably will end up doing the same, but I did buy one of these as well to go with it. This fits in this port here, and it gives you a continuous light source. Don't know if it'll be any good, but for that amount of money, it was worth a look to see. And I think the only other thing I wanted to show you, a slightly clearer picture of the objective. Turns out that it's actually kind of out of focus, but there you go. It's the Plan APO 20x.75 and working distance. Oh, it's a millimeter. Okay, that's slightly longer than I thought. So let me show you one other thing that may be helpful, may not. This is a sketch that I made the other day in Fusion 360, just so that I could show you the various components and explain what they were. This is not to scale, it's just to show you what is going on here. So your camera's up here, you have an extension tube between your camera, and in my case a helicoid, which allows you to fine-tune the distance between the sensor and the relay lens. The relay lens is a standard, actually it's not. This is a Raynox. In my case, I actually am using the ITL 200, but it's a relay lens. An adapter, the beam splitter, another adapter, the objective, and this is probably one of the more important parts of it. It is a cover slip, a 0.17 millimeter cover slip that is attached to the end of the objective. And this, of course, is my representation of the light source. Make sense? Pretty straightforward. This costs $25 from China. You've already got all the rest of this, I'm sure. And $30 if you buy one of these light sources, or you use a flash. Your MF12 would be fine, or a full-size flash. And the only other thing you need is the objective. And how much do you think this apochromatic 20 times magnification high NA thing costs? Have a guess. $150. $150 was what I found it for. Since then, I found it for as low as $110 and as high as $1,500. yeah, that's a bit nutty, the 1500 one. They sold new, and they still sell new, for thousands of dollars. The thing is, they were used in gene sequencing machines, and there were hundreds and thousands of these things made and put in machines, and the technology has changed somewhat, and now a bunch of them flooded onto the market. Yeah, they're not hard to find on eBay. Just search for Nikon 20X Plan APO NA 0.75, and you'll find them. I bought number 2 out of a batch of 8 that one guy was selling for 150 a piece. And yeah, they're remarkable. And that's exactly the same lens that those pictures of Rick's that I showed you right here were taken with. That's the cross-eyed one. If anybody wants to have a quick peek, well, I'll go back through them real quick. So this is the glasses for the lower magnification. This is the most impressive one of all to me. This was the one that made me a believer. Very impressive, incredible depth. Now, for those of you who are in the know about stereo, it was true that the depth is a little bit exaggerated by the angle that Rick chose to produce the stereo in, but it doesn't change the fact that the resolution is incredible and the detail is remarkable. So this now, with this information and you understanding the mechanics of how the light is going to be set up and how you'll set up your rig to do this, it's very, very important that you pay attention to the details. And probably the one of the biggest concerns is the lighting. If the light is too concentrated, you'll often get a flare, kind of it's like a hazy flare in the center of the picture, right where you wouldn't want it. But that generally doesn't happen as long as you diffuse the light a little bit. It doesn't happen till you get up to NAs of about 1. At 0.75, you're right in the sweet spot. But yeah, that's the way we're gonna do it. Now, as soon as I get the other parts in, which I don't have yet, I'll do a live demo and show you exactly what you can expect to see. But I wanted to get this information out to you sooner rather than later, in case you want to practice along with me and set this system up and see what you get. Also, a great resource is PMN, photomicrography.net. Rick has posted these pictures over there. He showed me another picture, which I can't show you because he hasn't yet posted it, of a printer head, an inkjet printer head. Now, you know I photographed those things a bunch in the past. They're lovely. They've got loads and loads of detail and depth. Wow, the picture he took with this rig of that print head was amazing, absolutely amazing. Now, it's true, if you're thinking about doing something like this, it's not going to work for everything. There are a lot of structures and samples that won't necessarily look too good with this system. Butterfly scales is one that apparently most people are disappointed with. But there are loads and loads of other things that would look good, and you use your imagination and hunt around, and you probably come up with some really remarkable subjects. Mostly flat things. Computer chips are the ideal, but yeah, find other stuff too. Might do a competition on this one day. Probably not. So understand when you're using a microscope objective, then, that the resolution that you are harnessing and projecting onto the sensor is a function of the numeric aperture. Low NA, low resolution. Magnification has nothing to do with it. In fact, a question came up that a friend of mine has a Mitutoyo M plan, an apochromatic objective, just like the regular Mitutoyos that many of us use, and he has it in 20 times magnification, but it is an NA.28 because it is a very long working distance objective. It has something like 1.5 times the working distance of the regular Mitutoyo 20X. That has an NA of 0.42, fairly high. The NA of the SL, the super long working distance, is only 0.28, which is the same as the NA of the 10X. So the question is, if you were to use that same 20X lens, we talk about this all the time, short focusing it with a shorter infinity, beg your pardon, a shorter relay lens, shorter tube lens, say 100mm tube lens, that would drop the magnification to 100. No, it wouldn't. It would drop the magnification to 10. But what would it do to the resolution if you were to short focus a 20X objective so that it had only 10X magnification? It wouldn't do anything to the resolution. The resolution would stay the same because the NA is a function of the lens. It doesn't change just because you short focus it. So the numeric aperture on that lens is 0.28, which gives you an effective aperture of about, on the 10X objective, it's about, what, 0.28 twice, that's 0.56 into a 10 is about 20 or thereabouts, 18. What then is the effective aperture of the 20X objective with the same numeric aperture? Well, it's 20 divided by 0.5, and that comes out to something a lot higher. Yeah, definitely a lot higher. It's up above. It's up in the 20s, right? 0.5. It's almost 35, something like that. That is 20 divided by twice the numeric aperture, but the numeric aperture is small, and that is what determines the resolution. The resolution is a function of the objective, a function of the numeric aperture, and increasing the magnification without increasing the resolution, without increasing the numeric aperture, is not going to increase the resolution. Okay, I think we battered that half to death. I was going to show you some other pictures, but I think these ones that of Rick's that I showed say it all. I mean, the first set of pictures were great, and I would be hard-pressed to believe he could have got anything any sharper than that. But anyway, you can. Let me see. I was going to do another demo as well, but I don't think I'm going to risk the technology biting me. So the key here is the illumination has to be good. You could see on Rick's setup, he had a small piece of diffusion material right over the light channel. He doesn't actually put anything in that light channel. He just uses his flash right up against it, and that appears to work very well. I'm going to do some tests on all the different lighting possibilities so we can pick the best. Oh, I know what I was going to show you, the cover slip issue. Most cover slips, most of the ones you'll buy for regular light microscopy, are of a standard thickness. It's a 0.17 millimeter thick, and they're about 22 millimeters square. If you do not have this layer of glass, then when the light enters the objective, we'll use this one that's not on a camera. When the light passes through the cover slip, it's going through two interfaces. air into glass and then glass back into air again. And that changes the angles of the light rays that are passing through. This lens was designed to go through the cover slip. That's why, well, apparently not here. That's why most of them will put a cover slip thickness on the objective to tell you what it was designed to shoot through. And in this case, if you don't use the cover slip, then what happens is you are not fully correcting for the spherical aberrations that would otherwise be present. So what we have to do is we have to take the objective and secure, thoroughly clean and dry. This one is filthy, but thoroughly clean and dry the right thickness of cover slip and adhere it to the front of the lens like this. Once the light goes through those two layers of interface, the spherical aberrations will be corrected, and that will reduce any softening or blurring that you get from the aberration. It just completes the correction. I used to think it was mostly color that was the reason you did this, to correct for chromatic aberration, but it's much less so. That is a minor issue. So if you're going to do this, be sure to get yourself some objectives. Now, I mean some cover slips. I'm experimenting with several different ways of attaching the cover slip. I think I'm probably going to go with hot glue because it's not liquid and it's not going to run into cracks in the lens. Also, it's easy to remove. Rick used black paint. I think that very, very black paint, that would be difficult. If anybody knows how to cut a circle out of a cover slip, then let me know, because I'd love to do that, so that it was round and not hanging over the edges. But yeah, I don't think that's possible. Probably some artisan out there knows how you can do it without breaking it, but yeah, I certainly don't. If you have a cover slip that is too thick or too thin, and they do make thinner cover slips and thicker ones, if you use the wrong thickness, you will not correct the aberrations, and you could in fact make them worse. So this is important. It's an important minor step here. So that is about it. As far as the practical details on setting this thing up. At the most, we're talking $100 and $200 to double the resolution on your 20x photography, if you even do 20x photography. You can find lower magnification lenses with higher numeric apertures. They're just very expensive, or very, very expensive. Yeah. Kind of out of range. So let me see if there are any questions or comments, complaints, threats, that type of thing. Let me see what people are saying. Got to close a lot of pictures here. There we go. All right. I just accidentally threw away that drawing in Fusion 360 because I closed it. So let me see. Go backwards. Did everybody see the interview with Mr. Pena? What a nice chap. What a great businessman. What a great role model. Fantastic chap, and a really enjoyable interview. Thoroughly enjoyed it. I just modified my Leica 2x lens to a 6x magnification and managed to shoot at a working distance of 6 centimeters and still maintaining clear shot with an aperture of 8. Laurent Zass. Is that how you pronounce the name, sir? Laurent we'll go with. Anyway, yeah, that's... how did you do that? By putting it on a whole bunch of extension? The problem with that setup is diffraction. When you're using camera lenses, of course, your effective aperture is the magnification plus 1 times the nominal aperture you set on the lens. So in that case, it would be 7 times 6, which is an effective aperture of 42. 42 is very high. It is well up into the diffraction limiting area. So I would definitely urge you to look at the pictures closely around and zoom in on them and make sure that you're getting the kind of resolution you expect without the kind of diffraction that you might be able to predict from that. There is a reason that we usually, for magnifications up around 6x, we will normally choose to use a microscope objective as opposed to a camera lens, and that is part of the reason. Let me see. I'm going to go backwards so that if there are any questions, I don't miss them. Harold, can you do a talk about lighting watches, jewelry, and other shiny objects? Oh, yes. In fact, Harold, that is an absolutely brilliant idea, because I spent the last 2 days taking pictures because I'm getting ready to do a kind of review or a discussion of one of the most unusual bellows I've ever encountered. It's a tilt, shift, swing bellows from Kenlock. Kenlock's the company. This was lent to me by Paul out in California, and the absolute perfect subject to use this, at least to use it for some of its abilities, would be in highly reflective jewelry shooting. So yeah, I could work that into one video, because yeah, well done, great idea, thank you. Try to cut a hole with a hollow punch. Does that work on glass? I thought it would just shatter it. I'll try it. I've got a hole punch. Question from ChatGPT. Oh, Paul, Paul, you're here and asking a question. Brilliant. There are more than 20 AI chatbot apps at the Apple Store. The first one I tried did not have a preferences or settings in its menu. Which app did you settle on? None of them. I use ChatGPT from OpenAI. It is not a chatbot. They have all of these apps that have very similar looking logos that are just jumping on the bandwagon. The best way to go, and I believe the most powerful selection of interfaces you can choose, and completely personalizable. That's not a word, is it? You can completely personalize it, is the one by OpenAI, and it will say something like the original or authentic. OpenAI ChatGPT 4.0. That's the only one to get. David Brown, not in a financial position to throw cash at Alan. What do you mean you're not? You don't have to throw a lot of it. Okay, so he's a raccoon on some kind of drugs, which sounds terrible. All right. I suspect not everyone looks at the chat or even has it showing, so 23 of 40 is pretty good. Are we talking about thumbs up? I think that's excellent. No, I think they can all see the chat. It's just that 17 of them don't like anything I'm saying, which is okay. I mean, I understand that. Okay. Mike is here. Greetings, Mike. And by the way, congratulations to you and everybody else who turned in a picture for the competition. I really loved what you guys did with mechanisms. Well done. All right. So your camera is a 24 megapixel camera, Lorand. That shouldn't have any effect. I mean, there's a whole different discussion on the resolution of the sensor, obviously, but yeah, the size of your camera, the sensor, and the quality of the pictures it's taking is not going to do anything to fix the diffraction softening. if there is any, which I would expect there probably would be. Bouncing off the walls. I am the walls, so there you go. All right. Can you do a talk about that was your original question, Harold. The answer is yes, absolutely. And we can talk about direct, indirect, flash, strobe, and constant lights, flags, reflectors. I did a video on this a while ago, trying to light a very reflective piece of opal jewelry. It was a lot of fun, but I could do a much better one now. So you know what we might do is a live demo. That would be fun too. We can set it up in here and just do the whole video live. Yes, so I will get that done, Harold. I do appreciate it. Let me see. Zeno, it's easier to follow the comparison of formula results if shown side by side. Right. Yeah, the problem is I tried that, and the side-by-side images, when they're stereo, the pictures are too small for me to resolve them as stereo, and I figured they'd be too small for everybody else too. So assuming everybody was going to view the stereo images from the same angle and same distance as I was, I just decided I'd have to do them one after the other. Sorry about that, but otherwise I couldn't see them. All right. Let me see. You know, there was a thing came out about that new DeepSeek AI that we were talking about last week. Apparently, there is the government, somebody in the government, one of our lawmakers is trying to pass a law that would make it illegal to download the DeepSeek app to your computer. And the fine was, what was it, 22 years in prison or $1 million would be the penalty for downloading the app to your computer. Are you serious? Yeah, that's pretty scary stuff. Yeah, so think about it carefully before you download a Chinese app to your computer. All right. Forgive me for reposting the unedited version. Oh, okay. I see. Well, I'm glad you did. I mean, it's great. There's no way you could know that I had messed up the posting of that the video of the review. I love that diffuser, by the way. It is a really cool tool, and it works really well. Yeah, I like it. I'm still trying to convince Zamir to send me those MF12s. He didn't ask me how many MF12s I had, but I think he might have balked if I told him how many I had. But anyway, yeah, I might actually end up having to go buy them one of these days. And Andrew, you enjoyed the interview. I'm glad you did. Arthur was asking where I was. I don't know where I was. Oh, before I started, I was a minute late. I'll go a minute long. But great. David Brown enjoyed the interview with Zamir. Exactly how you expected him to be. Nice guy. He just was just such a classy dude. I mean, really. I wish we had more folks like him. Well, all you people are like him. I'm the only one who's really not classy around here. All right. Alan is thinking if Zamir is working on a macro flash, he hopes it has a plug-in option. Well, I'll pass that message on to him. And I think Ingolf is here. Greetings, Ingolf. Susan is here. Greetings, Susan. Susan, I just received a box. I think I know what's in it. I will let you know when I get it open. Let me see. David's reminding you to hit the like button. 23 of you have already done so. Somebody is wearing flip-flops and shorts because it's warmed up from -8 to 13 degrees. Well, you'll be in the hospital before the end of the weekend, that's for sure. And I think I've covered everything. Graham is here. Congratulations, Graham, on your pencil sharpener. What a fantastic picture. I hope you agree, or I suspect you will, that Patrick's picture just was about the only thing that could have beaten the pencil sharpener this time around. All right, yeah, and for all of you who watched the Zamir interview or watched the AK diffuser review and were stunned to see it was just a horrible mess of footage, that has now been corrected, and the actual video is now up there and posted. So please, if you get a chance, go watch it. If not the first part, watch the second part so you can meet Zamir, especially those of you who've been interacting with him. I think you'll appreciate it. We are out of time. It's 3:02. I ran over 2 minutes because I was 2 minutes late. I will see you next week. No, I won't. I'll see you on Saturday at Afterstack. And I'm doing my taxes this weekend, so I may not make it next week. It all depends. I have a bad feeling about it this year. Okay, everybody, stay safe and be well. Have a great weekend. Go check out the Pena video that I just released, and congratulations to our competition winners. I will see you next week. Take care. Stay safe. Bye-bye.